Good evening, my friend. Welcome back to the Sleep Traveler. I'm so glad you're here. Wherever you are in the world right now, whatever kind of day it's been, what it asked of you, you can set all of that down now. Gently. The way you might set a bag down just inside the door after a long journey. You don't need to carry it any further tonight. Tonight with Japan. To Kyoto, the old imperial capital. A city that has been holding its breath in the most beautiful way for over 1,000 years. It is spring there. The cherry blossoms are at their peak. That brief, famous moment that the Japanese call Sakura, which arrives for only a week or two each year, and which people have been walking toward and writing poems about, for as long as there have been people in Japan to notice them. We arrive in the late afternoon, when the light is long and golden and the city is beginning to ease out of the day. We'll walk slowly. We'll follow small streets and let them lead us. We'll find the famous places in their quieter moments, and we'll find places that don't appear in any guidebook at all. There is no itinerary. There is only the city and the blossoms and the evening coming in softly over the mountains. Before we begin, let's arrive in your body. Let's give you a moment to fully land in the present, in this room, in this stillness. Make yourself as comfortable as you can. Let your legs uncross if they're crossed. Let your arms fall open, palms facing upward or downward, whichever feels more natural. Let your jaw go soft. There's a tendency, especially at the end of a long day, to hold tension in the hinge of the jaw without knowing it. Let that go now. Take a breath in. Slow through your nose, all the way down. Feel your belly rise before your chest, and then let it out. All the way. A long, easy exhale. Again. Breathe in and breathe out. One more. Breathe in deeply. Hold it very gently, and let it go. Feel the surface beneath you. The mattress, or the cushions, or the floor. Solid and reliable beneath your body. You don't have to hold yourself up. It is holding you. Your shoulders can drop. Your hips can settle. Your legs can be heavy, beautifully, restfully heavy, as though they are slowly sinking into warm sand. Feel the warmth moving up through your legs, your hips, your belly. Your chest softens. Your arms are heavy. Your hands are warm and still. And your face, let your forehead smooth. Let the space between your eyebrows release. Let your eyes rest gently behind their lids. You are safe. You are warm. And somewhere, on the other side of the world, the afternoon light in Kyoto is turning gold. Let's go. You come into Kyoto on the Shinkansen from Osaka, and the transition is immediate. One moment the urban sprawl of the Kansai plain, and then the train tilts and slows, and the mountains appear, green and close and draped in the low afternoon cloud that sits on Japanese mountains in spring like a second, softer range. You feel the change before you understand it. Something about the scale of the mountains. The way they press to the city on all sides, containing it, holding it in a bowl of green hills and river valleys. You step out of Kyoto Station into the late afternoon. The station itself is a vast, modern building of glass and steel. Deliberately so, the architects choosing to make it something unmistakably of this century rather than attempting to mimic the ancient city around it. There is a certain honesty in that. You stand outside the south exit for a moment and simply look. The Kyoto Tower rises nearby, and slightly alien, like a giant white candle someone has placed among the old tile rooftops. To the north, behind the streets of low buildings and the occasional temple gate, the mountains are turning soft in the haze. You walk. That's all. You walk north from the station with your bag on your shoulder, and no plan beyond moving slowly through the city. As the afternoon becomes evening, the streets near the station are busy in the way that areas around any major train station are busy. Convenience stores, ramen shops, a row of taxis idling in the rank. A man selling takoyaki from a small cart. The smell of the octopus and the batter and the sweet sharp sauce reaching you from 20 away. You pass a schoolgirl eating a melon pan as she walks, reading something on her phone with the total absorption of someone for whom the two activities are completely compatible. Then you turn into a side street, and the noise drops away. This is the thing about Kyoto that takes a little time to understand. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't perform. You turn off a main road, and suddenly you're in a street of old wooden townhouses called Mashiya. Their facades dark with age. Their narrow frontages giving way to deep interior spaces you can only guess at through the occasional gap in a sliding screen. A ceramic tanuki, the round-bellied raccoon dog of Japanese folklore, sits outside a doorway holding a sake bottle and wearing a straw hat, his expression one of profound and cheerful self-satisfaction. A bicycle leans against a wall, its basket holding a single bag of groceries and a folded umbrella. You walk slowly and the city opens around you one street at a time. You make your way northeast, toward the canal path that runs along the base of the Higashiyama Mountains. It's called the Tetsugaku no Michi, the Philosopher's Path, named for the early 20th century philosopher Nishida Kitaro, who walked it every morning on his way to Kyoto University, thinking his slow thoughts in the company of the cherry trees and the water. You arrive at the path around 4 in the afternoon, and the light at this hour is extraordinary. It comes in low and sideways from the west, filtering through the cherry blossom canopy that lines both banks of the narrow canal, and it turns everything the color of warm honey. The blossoms are at their absolute peak today. You can feel it, the way you can sometimes feel the exact right moment of a thing. Every tree is in full flower, dense with pink blooms that are almost white at their centers and deepen to rose at the tips of the petals. The petals are falling. This is what nobody quite prepares you for, the falling. A breath of wind moves through the trees and the petals come loose in their hundreds, drifting down across the path and onto the surface of the canal, where they float slowly southward on the current, a procession of pale pink on dark water. The Japanese have a word for this too, hanafubuki, flower blizzard, though this is too gentle and slow to be called a blizzard. It is more like a thought the tree is releasing. A quiet and continuous letting go. The path is not empty. It is never entirely empty during cherry blossom season, but at this hour it is peaceable. Couples walk slowly. A man sits on a low stone wall with a sketchbook open on his knee, drawing the canal with a careful pencil. An elderly woman stands very still beneath a particular tree, her face tilted upward toward the blossoms, her expression one of open, uncomplicated pleasure. She has probably stood beneath this tree in this season many times before. She looks as though she intends to keep doing so for as long as she is able, and that seems to you to be a very fine way to live. You walk along the path, letting your pace match the pace of the water in the canal below, unhurried, continuous, going somewhere without appearing to try. The stones of the path are old and slightly uneven, and your footsteps are quiet on them. The sound of the water is constant, a low murmuring over the stones of the canal bed, and above it the occasional sound of a bush warbler in the trees, uguisu, the Japanese call it, the bird whose song is so synonymous with spring that its name has become almost a synonym for spring itself. The call is liquid and clear and rises at the end like a question. You walk until the path begins to quiet further, until the few other people have thinned, and you have a long stretch of canal and blossom and mountain light almost to yourself. You stop and lean against the low stone wall above the water and watch the petals float past. There is nothing you need to do. There is nowhere you need to be. There is only this canal, this light, these falling petals, this quiet. You breathe in. The air smells of something very clean and very faintly sweet. The blossoms themselves carry almost no fragrance. But the air around them in spring seems to hold a sweetness that is more atmospheric than botanical, as though the season itself has a scent. You could stand here for a long time. You do. At the southern end of the Philosopher's Path, the canal flows toward the grounds of Nanzen-ji Temple, and you follow it. The temple complex announces itself gradually. First a wooden gate glimpsed at the end of a lane, then a stone-paved approach road lined with old maples. Their new spring leaves the most vivid green imaginable, almost electric against the pale sky. The Sanmun Gate stands at the entrance to the inner grounds, enormous and very old. Its dark wooden pillars rising 22 meters into the air above a broad stone platform. You climb the outer steps. The inner passage requires a ticket, and you are happy simply to stand at the base and look upward at the construction, at the way the massive timbers have been fitted together without nails in the traditional Japanese manner, each piece shaped to lock against the next, a structure held together by precision and weight and 600 years of quiet persistence. Beyond the gate, the main temple grounds are settling into the particular piece of late afternoon. The tour groups have largely gone. A monk in gray robes moves at a measured pace along a covered walkway, not hurrying, carrying nothing, going somewhere or nowhere with equal composure. The gravel of the approach has been raked into careful parallel lines that record every footstep that has crossed them today and will be raked smooth again tomorrow morning. An act of renewal so quiet, it is easy to miss its significance. You walk deeper into the complex, past the main hall, toward the aqueduct, a Roman-style viaduct built in the 1890s to carry water from Lake Biwa into the city, running straight through the temple grounds with a cheerful disregard for the several centuries of Buddhist architecture around it. It is one of Kyoto's stranger juxtapositions, and it works somehow. The old stone of the arches has been colonized by moss and small ferns, and in spring by cascading cherry blossom, so that it has been absorbed, as Kyoto absorbs most things eventually, into the surrounding beauty. You sit on a stone bench near the aqueduct as the last direct sunlight leaves the grounds. The shadows come first in the garden, the maples going dark while the sky above them is still bright. And the temperature drops by just enough to make you pull your jacket a little closer. Somewhere in the direction of the main hall, someone strikes a wooden block, one clear, sharp sound, and then silence returns. A cat appears from beneath a camellia bush. It is a small, gray-striped cat with white paws, and it crosses the gravel of the garden path with the absolute authority of an animal that has lived here for years and considers the place its own. It sits in the middle of the path and regards you with that quality of calm assessment that cats have perfected, then stands, stretches elaborately, all the way from nose, a deeply satisfying stretch, and walks on into the gathering dark. You watch it go and feel something settle in your chest. Something like recognition, something like, this is exactly where I am supposed to be. The old preserved district of Higashiyama begins just west of the temple grounds, and you walk into it as the lamps along the stone-paved lanes begin to flicker on. These are some of the oldest streets in Kyoto, the lanes between them preserved and maintained with a care that is visible in every detail. The wooden lattice facades, the smooth stone paving, the low walls topped with traditional round-edged tiles, the shop fronts selling matcha sweets, hand-painted fans, and small ceramic pieces painted with the motifs of the season. Most of the shops are closing now, the shopkeepers pulling wooden shutters across their fronts with the practiced ease of people who have done this every evening for years. One woman is arranging the unsold goods on a shelf inside her small ceramics shop, and you pause to look through the window at the pieces. Small Unomi teacups in a deep iron-red glaze, a few seitakuri with a matte gray finish, a pair of small dishes painted with the outlines of autumn leaves, in ochre and brown that seem slightly out of season here, among all the spring blossoms. She notices you looking and gives a small bow of acknowledgement through the glass. You bow back, slightly, feeling the gesture to be correct. The lane narrows as it climbs gently toward Kiyomizudera, the great wooden temple on the hillside, and you follow it up. The tourist crowds are almost entirely gone now, and the stones of the lane shine dully in the lamplight, worn smooth by countless feet over centuries. On either side, the old shop houses press close, and through the occasional gap between them you can see the city below, spreading westward, its lights beginning to appear as the sky darkens. A vast grid of amber and white stretching to the mountains on the far side of the Kamo River Valley. You reach the outer gate of Kiyomizudera as the last light fades from the sky. The temple is famous for its wooden stage, a broad platform of cypress timber extending out from the main hall on tall pillars above the hillside, offering a view over the city that has been maple stop and stand in silence for over 1,000 years. Tonight there are only a handful of people on the stage. You lean on the wooden railing and look out. The city below is fully lit now, and it goes on and on, not a dramatic skyline in the way of Tokyo or New York, but a low, wide, jeweled expanse that seems to breathe gently in the spring air. The mountains ring it on 3 sides, darker shapes against the dark sky, and the river runs through its middle as a dark line, and somewhere in the middle distance a temple complex is lit from below, its pagoda rising in stages above the city lights like something from a dream of Japan rather than Japan itself, except that it is entirely real. And you are standing here, and the wood of the railing beneath your hands is cool and smooth and absolutely solid. A couple stands a few meters away, leaning together, not saying anything. Their stillness has the quality of 2 people who have been a long time together and no longer need to fill quiet with words. You stay until the cold in the air becomes something more than pleasant, and then you walk back down the hill into the warmth of the streets below. You find dinner by instinct and luck, which is usually the best way. You're walking through the side streets of Gion, the old geisha district, where the Mashiya townhouses stand shoulder to shoulder along narrow lanes, and the occasional sound of a shamisen drifts from behind a closed screen. When you see it, a Norin curtain hanging in a doorway, deep indigo with a white pattern of cranes, shifting slightly in the breeze. A small wooden sign beside the door with characters you cannot read and a handwritten note in English beneath them that's simply dinner. Please, come in. Inside, the restaurant is 8 seats at a hinoki cypress counter, a small open kitchen behind it, and a chef who looks to be in his 60s working alone. The space is lit warmly, the counter wood pale and smooth, the air carrying the smell of dashi, that fundamental Japanese broth of kombu and bunu leeks, the base of almost everything, a smell that is deep and oceanic, and very slightly smoky, and which somehow manages to smell like both the sea and a warm kitchen simultaneously. He sets down a small ceramic cup of tea without being asked. Hojisha, roasted green tea, dark and nutty and warming. You wrap your hands around the cup. He goes back to his work without ceremony. The meal comes in small courses, each one set down with a brief explanation in careful English. A soup of white miso with small clams and a single sprig of kainomi, the young leaf of the sansho pepper plant, its fragrance sharp and citrusy and unmistakably spring. A piece of grilled amidai fish, the scales crisp to a deep gold, the flesh beneath it white and impossibly delicate. A small dish of bamboo shoot simmered in dashi with a little soy and mirin, the bamboo cut thick and tasting of the season itself. The particular clean, slightly astringent flavor of young bamboo that is only available for a few weeks each year, and which the Japanese pursue with the same seasonal devotion they bring to the cherry blossoms. You eat slowly. The counter is quiet. A man 2 seats down is drinking cold sake from a tall, thin glass. reading a paperback novel, with the ease of someone who eats alone often, and has made a pleasure of it. From outside comes the occasional soft sound of footsteps on stone, a bicycle bell in the distance, the city going about its evening. The chef places the final course in front of you. A small bowl of white rice, perfectly cooked, each grain separate and gleaming, accompanied by a slice of pickled daikon and a piece of grilled salmon. He refills your tea. There is a quality of care in every action that has nothing to do with performance and everything to do with the genuine attention of someone who has devoted a significant portion of their life to doing this particular thing well. You think about that as you eat your rice. The quiet devotion to one thing done daily over many years. There is something in that idea that is very restful. After dinner, you walk through Gion as it settles into its nightlife. Hanamikoji Street is the famous one. The broad, lamplit lane, where the ochayate houses stand behind wooden lattice facades, and where, if you are very patient and very lucky, you might see a geiko or a maiko moving quickly between appointments, her white-painted face, an elaborate kimono, and the soft sound of her wooden geta on the stones, all combining for a moment into something that seems entirely from another era, because it is. Tonight you see a maiko just once, briefly. She comes around a corner ahead of you and moves along the opposite side of the lane at a composed but purposeful pace, accompanied by a woman in a dark kimono who is not in full makeup, and who is perhaps her older mentor or the mistress of her tea house. The maiko's kimono is a pale green silk with a pattern of wisteria at the hem and a deep red collar, and her obi is tied in the long, trailing style that is particular to maiko, the end of it hanging almost to the hem of the kimono. She passes a pool of lamplight and is gone around another corner, the soft rhythm of her geta fading after her. You walk on. The Shirakawa Canal runs through the eastern edge of Gion, another narrow waterway, and the cherry trees along its banks are lit from below by small lights set into the stone, so that the blossoms glow in the dark above the black water, their reflection trembling on the surface below. A stone bridge crosses the canal every 50 meters or so, old and arched and slightly mossy at the base, and you cross one and lean over the railing and look downstream to where the lit blossoms recede into the dark, one pool of light after another. The sound of the water, the smell of the blossoms in the cool night air, the amber light on the old stones of the lane. A cat sitting on a wall watching the canal with that same ancient patience that all Kyoto cats seem to have inherited from the temples and the centuries around them. You feel the evening settling into your bones in the best possible way. The pleasant tiredness of a body that has walked a long and beautiful day. The specific contentment of someone who has eaten a good meal in a small and honest place. The quiet that comes after a day of paying close attention to the world, as though the mind, having taken in so much, has reached a gentle fullness and is ready now to close. You take the long way back to wherever you're staying, because there's no reason to hurry, and because Kyoto at night on a spring evening is a particular gift that you don't want to give back too soon. You cross the Kamo River on a wide old bridge. The river below is shallow and wide, running fast over pale gravel beds, its surface glinting in the light from the bridge. Pairs of stepping stones cross it in parallel lines, and on them, even now in the dark, a few people are making their way slowly across. Young couples mostly, hopping stone to stone, laughing when someone's balance wavers. The long sandbars of the riverbank empty at this hour, though by day they are full of people picnicking and reading and practicing music and doing all the quiet things that Kyoto people do along their river. On the far bank, in the Pontocho alley that runs parallel to the river, the narrow lamplit lane is still lively. Small bars and restaurants opening onto the alley with their red lanterns swaying. The yakitori and charcoal. The sound of conversation and laughter from somewhere above. where an upstairs restaurant has its windows open to the spring night. A man is cooking chicken skewers over a narrow grill just inside a doorway, his face warm in the heat and light of the coals, his wrist moving in the steady, practiced rhythm of someone who has done this 10,000 times. You walk the length of the alley slowly, taking in the warmth and the light and the smells, and then you turn into a quieter street heading north, and the sounds of Pontocho fade behind you. The streets you walk now are residential, old wooden houses with their lights on behind paper screens, the blue glow of a television through a thin curtain, the sound of a bath being run, a radio somewhere playing things slow and orchestral. A convenience store on a corner throws a rectangle of fluorescent light onto the pavement, and inside a teenage boy is making himself a cup of instant noodles at the hot water station. And this, too, the ordinary, unhurried life of the city continuing around you in the dark, is part of what makes Kyoto itself. Above the rooftops, the sky has cleared completely. The stars that are visible in a city sky, fewer than in the countryside, but real and present, are out. The air has the particular freshness of a spring night in a city beside mountains, cool and clean and faintly scented with something you can't name. Blossoms, perhaps. The old wood of the houses. All of it together, the scent of this particular city in this particular season. You walk slowly, your footsteps on the stones, and you feel, what is the word? Held. You feel held by the city and its age and its beauty, by the kindness of the evening, all the small moments of grace it has offered, by the simple fact that you were present for it, paying attention, moving slowly enough to let it in. Find somewhere to be still now. A futon in a wooden room perhaps, with paper screens diffusing the last of the street light into something soft and even, or wherever you are, in your own bed, in your own room, with the city or the countryside, or the quiet outside your window. Let the day settle around you. Let Kyoto go gently. The philosopher's path, and its falling petals, the cat at Nanzen-ji crossing the gravel with its white paws, the maiko moving through the lamplight, the dash soup, and the spring bamboo and the cypress counter and the tea. Let all of it dissolve now, the way dreams dissolve in the first minutes of waking. Not gone, exactly, but released, returned to wherever beautiful things go when we're finished with them. Feel your body heavy and warm. Feel your breathing slow. The ordinary miracle of your chest rising and falling. The air moving in and moving out. The body doing what it knows to do without any instruction from you. The cherry blossoms are falling somewhere. They are always falling somewhere in season, in the dark, in the quiet. Petals releasing from branches on a canal in an old city, floating down onto black water and drifting slowly south. Going where the current takes them, not holding on. Let yourself be like that now. Not holding on, going where the current takes you. Down and down, into the deep and restful dark. Your arms are warm, your legs are heavy. The thoughts that come now are soft and without edges, the beginning of dreams rather than the end of waking. Let them come. Don't follow them and don't push them away. Watch them move through like petals on water. You have walked a long way today, through a beautiful city in the most beautiful season of its year. You have paid attention and let the world show itself to you. You have eaten a good meal in a small, honest place. You have stood on an old wooden stage and looked out over a city of lights and mountains. You have watched petals fall onto dark water and felt, in that falling, something like peace. That peace is yours now. Goes with you into sleep. The music will stay with you as you drift deeper. There is nothing more you need to do. Only this. Oyasumi nazai. Sleep well, my friend. The blossoms are falling in Kyoto, and you are warm, and all is well.